Hello, Group 12 welcomes you to Switzerland. This video will focus on the political, economic, sociocultural, technological, environmental, and legal aspects of Switzerland. The information from this PESTEL and SWOT analysis is intended to be used as an international business decision-making guide for those exploring Switzerland as a foreign market entry. To begin, let's look at the geographical location and demographics behind a land famously known for its natural beauty, Swiss watches, chocolates, cheeses, and music festivals. Consisting of 15,940 square miles, Switzerland is located in Central Europe. The capital is Bern, Switzerland. Unlike the United States, Switzerland lacks any maritime claims. 96.9% of Switzerland is land. As a landlocked country, Switzerland borders France in the west, Germany in the north, Austria and the Principality of Liechtenstein in the east, and Italy in the south. The terrain in Switzerland is mostly mountains, with a central plateau of rolling hills, plains, and large lakes. The climate is temperate but varies with altitude, and the varying elevations allow for denser populations in the north and west, but limit settlement in the higher Alps of the south. Switzerland is home to 8,236,303 people, only 2.52% of the population in the U.S. Similar to the United States, Switzerland is very diverse in religion and languages and is the only country in the world to have 4 national languages. The median age of the Swiss is 42.2 years of life, 4.3 more years than the U.S. The population growth rate of 0.7% is just below the U.S. rate of 0.8%. Ranking in at number 9 in the world for life expectancy at birth, the Swiss's life expectancy is 82.6 years compared to the United States life expectancy of 79.8 years. Let's begin our PESTEL analysis by looking into the political characteristics of Switzerland.
Switzerland is a confederation of 26 cantons, similar in structure to a federal republic. Ratified in 1848, the Swiss federal constitution formalized democracy that had been in place since the late 13th century. Unlike the representative political system of the United States, Switzerland is a direct democracy. This means Swiss citizens have more power to directly affect laws and constitutional amendments through popular initiative and majority decision. The political system in Switzerland is comprised of 3 branches of government: executive, legislative, and judicial. The executive branch includes 7 equal members of the Federal Council. While Switzerland does have a president, Doris Lethard, the role is mostly ceremonial and described as the first among equals. Each of the 7 members, elected by the legislative branch's Federal Assembly, rotate serving a 1-year term as president. Members of the 2-chamber Federal Assembly are elected by majority vote and serve 4-year terms. The Federal Supreme Court is Switzerland's highest court of the judicial branch. Judges are elected by the Federal Assembly and serve 6-year terms. Switzerland is a free country with a consistent freedom aggregate score of 96 or higher over the last 14 years. A 2-year downward trend between 2008 and 2010 exists due to electoral gains of the anti-immigrant Swiss People's Party. As you can see, the downward trend has leveled out and Switzerland scores higher than the also free United States, which is still in decline. Corruption in Switzerland is not an impediment to businesses. Switzerland ranks 5th overall in cleanest countries as compared to the United States at 18. While the overall corruption perception index for Switzerland remains high, there is slight concern for possible corruption in the banking sector. Lenient monitoring of financial institutions makes the possibility of financial crimes such as money laundering and tax evasion easier for corrupt business people. Switzerland has a strong rule of law perception. Property rights are protected, contracts and rules are binding, and the judicial systems are considered fair.
The next portion of our PESTEL analysis brings us to the economic sector. While we are used to a mixed economy in the United States, Switzerland utilizes a modern market economy, which according to Investopia.com is defined as a market economy in which the economic decisions and the pricing of goods and services are guided solely by the aggregate interactions of a country's individual citizens and businesses. There is little government intervention or central planning. This is the opposite of a centrally planned economy, in which government decisions drive most aspects of a country's economic activity. As we can see, from the data provided, Switzerland has been in line with the United States in terms of economic freedom until sometime in 2011, when Switzerland began to trend towards a more free market system. Both countries are well above the average economic freedom index for the world. According to the European Commission, tariffs on Swiss manufacturers are generally low, and in principle there are no quantitative restrictions, anti-dumping or countervailing or safeguard actions. However, in a number of Swiss sectors, the market entry has long suffered from informal barriers, which can be attributed to a legacy of weak anti-cartel legislation, specific and protective technical regulations, certain investment restrictions, and exclusive rights under intellectual property legislation. Until recently, Switzerland was trended lower than the United States on the overall Human Development Index. But in fact, as of 2016, according to the Human Development Reports by the United Nations, Switzerland now ranks second in the world. The top three major exports for Switzerland are gold at 65.3 billion, packaged medicaments at 31.9 billion, and human or animal blood at 18.1 billion. Top destinations for these exports are Germany, the United States, and Hong Kong. Top imports for Switzerland are gold at 72.7 billion, packaged medicaments at 14.1 billion, and cars at 10.5 billion. Top import countries of origin are Germany, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Looking at various economic data, Switzerland's economy has foreign direct investment inflows and outflows and decreasing inflation rates that are more in line with the United States market. While their merchandise exports are on the rise since 2009, there has been a slight drop-off. The cost of living in Switzerland is significantly higher than the United States. According to Numbeo.com, the consumer prices alone in Switzerland are 41% higher than in the US. So with that in mind, $4,400 to maintain the same living conditions in Switzerland would be around 6,000 francs. It is now time that we move on to the socio-cultural aspect of our PESTEL model for Switzerland. The official languages spoken in Switzerland are Swiss German, French, Italian, and Romansh, with Swiss German being the most spoken language at 63%. In terms of religious aspect, Roman Catholic is the most recognized religion at 37% of the population. Looking at Hofstede's dimensions of culture, Switzerland recognized a small power distance between subordinates and their superiors. There is also a recognized difference in how groups operate, as Switzerland displays a lower affinity for individualist nature. The people of Switzerland seem to like more clear and concise information, rating higher on the uncertainty avoidance. There is also relevance of pragmatic nature and decisions made, leading towards a more logical and a practical approach. Indulgence scores are slightly lower than in the United States, but nothing to be too concerned about. The Swiss place a high importance on laws, rules, values, and obligations. Rules will come before relationships. They also place a moderately high belief in personal freedom and achievement. They believe that you make your own decisions and that you must take care of yourself. There is a tendency for a larger expression of emotions than in the United States, rating just a 32 on the neutral versus affective score. The people place a larger belief in ascription than that in that they believe that they should be valued for who you are at the social level than in the United States. Work and personal lives are deemed to be kept separate, and as a result, they believe relationships do not have much impact on work objectives. Lastly, the Swiss are a more outer-directed people, believing that nature and their environment controls them, and that they must work with their environment to achieve goals.
Velcro, the Swiss Army knife, insulin pumps, and the first heart transplant are just a few examples of innovations from Switzerland. CERN, one of the largest and most respected scientific research centers in the world, is also located in Switzerland. It was at this facility that the World Wide Web was created. Scientists successfully trapped antimatter atoms and discovered pentaquarks. Advances in technology such as these are precisely why Switzerland consistently ranks number 1 as the most innovative country with an innovation index average of approximately 66. Funding research and development is important to the Swiss, as represented by the steady increase in R&D expenditures as a percent of GDP. These efforts are further exemplified by the sheer volume of patent applications per capita in Switzerland as compared to other countries.
Located in Central Europe, Switzerland is famous for the natural beauty of its mountainous land, rolling hills, and large lakes. The extreme differences in height above sea level allow for a great variety of climates with corresponding plants and animals. Over the past 10 years, Switzerland has continuously had a higher ranking in Yale's Environmental Performance Index. In 2016, Switzerland's EPI rank was 16. In a respective comparison, the USA ranks number 26. Unlike the United States, Switzerland has two top 10 rankings: water resources and water and sanitation. In Switzerland, forest is ranked number 17 and climate and energy is ranked number 35. Switzerland suffers from climate change and loss of biodiversity, of which are directly related to its worst indicator, air quality, where it ranks 127th. A recent government report sets out a list describing 46% of Switzerland's plant and animal lives at risk from human activity. While Switzerland's carbon emission of 4.83 metric tons is lower than all of its bordering countries, Climate Action Tracker ranks Switzerland's intended nationally determined contribution as insufficient, because it is consistent with warming between 2 and 3 degrees Celsius, much higher than the 1.5 degrees Celsius levels required under the Paris Agreement. Excessive nitrogen levels are of particular concern, as levels can range up to 54 compared to the natural atmospheric levels of 0.5 to 2.0 kg per hectare per year. About 2/3 of this comes from the farming, while the remainder is from burning fossil fuel. In this video, Martin Scheiss, head of Air Pollution Control and Chemicals Division for the Federal Office of Environment, discusses environmental priorities.
Nowadays, we have catalytic converters, a technology that is continuously being improved. We also have small particle filters, something that also works well with diesel vehicles. But when it comes to nitrogen oxides, legal limits are being exceeded, and we urgently need to address this. For households, the focus is on wood heating. There, we need more efficient ways of heating with wood to reduce fine particle emissions. In industry, we need to make sure that emissions are kept in check and that statutory limits are met.
Switzerland operates under a civil law legal system characterized by coded statutes, detailed all-encompassing rules with clear and rigid law. Judges decide facts in law, and corruption is more likely. In comparison, the common law system of the United States relies on judicial precedents. Lawyers and juries are crucial to court decisions, but the process can be confusing and flexible. Swiss government enacts strong rule of law, judicial independence, and control of corruption. Since 2012, Switzerland consistently ranks higher than the United States in legal and political environment, physical property rights, and the International Property Rights Index score. In 2017, the Swiss scored 8.561 on their IPRI score, and the U.S. scored 8.074. In the past 5 years, the IPRI average scores are Swiss 8.234 versus United States 7.743. According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, Swiss General Public Administration ranks number 1 globally in output efficiency, and their public administration enjoys the highest public confidence of any national government in the OECD. The Swiss Code of Obligations, the Lex Friedrich Kohler, the securities law, and the cartel law are the major laws regulating foreign investment in Switzerland. The Swiss government welcomes FDI and is not hampered by any kind of barrier. Switzerland is not a member of the European Union and allows all the 26 cantons to set their own foreign investment attraction policies. Historically, Switzerland effectively enforces intellectual property rights linked to patents and trademarks, but Swiss authorities have lackluster regulation over the enforcement of online copyright laws. Subsequently, Switzerland has become a base for global online piracy. The number of online piracy platforms managing their operations through Switzerland is so alarming that the 2016 United States Trade Representative placed Switzerland on its special 301 watch list. In the past 5 years, the United States has continuously outperformed the Swiss in intellectual property rights, with an average score of 8.48 versus the Swiss at 8.24.
Switzerland has turned its mission to provide groundbreaking research and innovations into its greatest strength, as evidenced by the average 3.4% of GDP spent on R&D the last few years. Switzerland's strengths also lie in its world-class infrastructures, an idyllic location for business with European, African, and Middle Eastern markets. Switzerland is the epicenter of European and global competition, and businesses may wish to be aware of this weakness. Switzerland's growing economy and pioneerism in mathematics and science provide interested investors with prodigious opportunities. It is also recommended that businesses be mindful of potential threats. While Switzerland is one of the most uncorrupt countries in the world, tax evasion lawsuits involving offshore activity are more common than one may expect. Additionally, Switzerland has strict requirements for non-Europeans wishing to work in their country. This concludes our PESTEL presentation on Switzerland.